Welcome everybody from the Sparx Systems YouTube channel. It's great to have you here today. Once again, we're going to continue to look at our urban parking system repository that's been developed and designed in Enterprise Architect. Today, we're going to look at the organizational viewpoint in ArchiMate. So welcome, Stephen. Great to have you here today. Can you tell us a little bit about the organization viewpoint in ArchiMate?
Thanks for the introduction, Scott, and always a pleasure to be here. Yes, today we're going to be looking at a particular viewpoint, and this is a visualization from a particular, perspective or a viewpoint. So let's have a look, as we always do, at setting our perspective. I've been working on some executable state machines earlier today. Now I'm going to change my perspective to enterprise architecture and the ArchiMate language and framework. So I click on that perspective, the tool changes its focus on to ArchiMate. So let's have a look at ArchiMate, and we can see that there are a number of viewpoints here. Now the viewpoint is a part of the specification, and the specification, the ArchiMate specification, prescribes a number of viewpoints. You can choose to follow those, you can create your own, but they are very useful starting points, Scott. And the one we're going to be looking at today is under the basic group of viewpoints, and it's called the organizational viewpoint. So what's this about? Well, it's really about being able to represent aspects of an organization or a company, a department, a network of companies. And what we're looking at doing is modeling the actors and some other related ArchiMate elements. And this one here, we can see in the pattern, we've got a very traditional block diagram where we've got nested actors. So this is a pattern, and you could use this as a starting point by simply hitting the Create Model button, and that would inject that pattern and the elements into your model. So this representation, this nested representation, is quite a common way to represent the organizational viewpoint. The other thing is you could use a more traditional organizational chart for that viewpoint. But the specification itself defines some other elements that can go into this particular viewpoint. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at a sort of an expanded view of this, and not just this simple block diagram, because you can see that's relatively straightforward for people. But as always, Scott, I want to start from first principles. So I'm going to close the builder page and start from scratch. I encourage people to return to this page, and that's available from the project browser toolbar there, the model builder, that far left-hand icon, the package icon with a star. But we'll close that now and we'll start from scratch. So we need to find a place in our repository for this viewpoint. So we're going to go into the enterprise and enterprise architecture, and here we've got business architecture. So let's put in another package. We'll call it Organization Viewpoint. So we've got that there. We'll just do a package only for the moment, but we could create a diagram at the same time. I like to do that separately just to show people that that's possible to do it in two steps. But if you wanted to do it in one, you can click that radio button there as well. So let's go there. We've got our organization viewpoint there. So let's now create a diagram. So ArchiMate there, let's select the business one here. We've got organization there, we've got business, we've got basic organization. So let's go and create that diagram. And what it does is it brings up a list of elements that can be used on the diagram and connectors. So structural connectors, dynamic connectors, and there are also another group of common elements that can pretty much go onto any of the diagrams. But Enterprise Architect has limited the available elements and connectors that are relevant to this organization viewpoint. So that's a very useful thing to do. So let's now...
That helps limit the scope, so you don't have 20 or 30 different icons, just
exactly
the ones you need.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Scott, you know, from if you've been watching these videos previously, I very much like to put in notes and descriptions of each thing that we're doing. So let's put in each element or package we're creating. Let's put in a description in the notes for the organization viewpoint. I go over to the notes window, select that. I've got those in my buffer. I'm going to put those in. Now, I didn't make this up, Scott. This comes directly from the ArchiMate 3.2 specification, and this is the description of that viewpoint. So viewpoint focuses on the internal organization of a company department, and you can change those if you want to and put your own description in there that might be more relevant. But this comes straight from the ArchiMate specification, so it is the truth that we've got there. So let's go now and create some elements. So one of the ones I want to create first of all is actors. So let's put an actor onto the screen, and these don't have to be individual, Scott. They can be teams of people and other groups. So let's put that on.
The actor could be the marketing team, for example, or the parking inspector team.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a case in point, I guess. It's the Urban Parking Management Centre. So we're going to put that on. Now I'm going to create that being a little bit larger because I know what I'm going to be drawing, and I'm going to relate some other things to this. Now, again, I want to put in some details about that. It's not completely obvious what the Urban Parking Management Centre is, but let's put in some notes for that so people can see what it is. The central operational hub that coordinates all aspects of the urban parking system. Okay, let's put on some other actors as well. So we'll put on another actor here, and we'll call this person the parking administrator. And we'll put that there. And then again, we're going to add some notes to that, and we can describe, what this actor's role is in, or the purpose of this actor in the system. The individual team responsible for the overall administration. So let's put in some connectors here as well, and we'll use the quick linker there, drag it from the Urban Parking Management Centre into the middle of the parking administrator there, and we're going to use composed of. So Enterprise Architect pops up a list of available connectors that are part of the specification, so you're going to be on the right track. We'll put that in, and there we've got the parking administrator in the diagram now. And we can keep going and putting other actors on there. The other thing I might want to do is to put a business interface there. So let's do that, and we can grab an interface element from the toolbox, and we'll drag that onto the diagram. And let's call this the urban parking mobile app. So this is a modern system that motorists are able to look at their parking meter status away from their vehicle and be able to do things like check the status, whether it's expired, extend the session, and those kind of things. So with that selected in there, we can again add some notes into the element. So we'll put that in there, and we'll put some notes in. So we can go along and keep adding elements here, and we might want to put in, for example, a business role. So this might be the business role that this parking administrator plays is a zone and space manager. So that's looking after the particular zones that the parking spaces are divided up into. And again, we'll put some notes in for those, and we want to put in a connector there, and let's use a look which connector we've used. The quick linker will tell us which one we want. So let's just we have a number of different options, but let's just put that in, and we'll see Daisy click on that one there and drag that down. Not getting the quick linker there properly. That's it. Got it now. And let's say it's a assigned to relationship. So there we have the beginnings of our diagram, Scott. And what I'm going to do is get you to perform some of your time magic, and I'll see if I can get this diagram completed, and then we can have a closer look at it once the diagram is being completed.
We've done a little bit of time travel and editing magic, and I can now see the completed diagram on screen. So can you tell us a little bit about what it does and what it tells and communicates to our audience?
Thank you, Scott. Yes, and thank you for the time travel. Let's have a look at the diagram. The diagram has got a number of different elements on it. And now we looked at our actors and we can see there's a business actor there. And Scott, you can tell which icons or which elements are which because there's an icon in the top right-hand corner that is showing the type of element. So the little ones with a stick person on them are representing actors. And then we have underneath that elements with a cylinder on its side, which is a business role.
Yep.
And quick way to remember that is imagine the cylinder rolling down a hill. Different type of roll, but you know the little mnemonic is quite useful for remembering it. So we've got that. We've also got here a business collaboration. So a number of things.
Two circles look to be collaborating together.
Exactly. So that's right. And this one here, the interface, which is sort of like the lollipop one, which is a business interface. But what I've done, Scott, over in the browser is that I've grouped these under a number of packages. And all I did is just go and create a new package. So underneath the organization viewpoint, just a new package and create a package called business actors. Now, that isn't completely necessary, but it's very useful to keep these things a little bit separate. You can see that there is a stereotype prefixing the name, and I can turn that off globally for the entire repository using a preference. But I've left it on there, but grouping them under these packages is useful and keeps it all, tidy and organized, and you can just see which ones are which. The other thing is, Scott, that these relationships, while they've got icons on them as well, and you can learn what the icons are. I click on that. It says it's an ArchiMate composition. I can look on this one. It says it's an ArchiMate assignment. What I can do is use the legend that for connectors, and I'll do that by going to the library here. And we've got a number of different legends in our library, and there's one there called ArchiMate Connector Legend. So we can both dynamically color elements and also the connectors in a diagram. We're not going to color the elements in this example, but we'll drag that ArchiMate one on and we'll drop that there, and you can see that it has colored those. And so we can see the blue ones are composition, the green ones are assignment, specializations, and these aggregation ones here. And there's some relationships where we haven't got on this diagram. So that's a useful thing to do. It makes the diagram a little bit more appealing, but also gives a indication of the semantics of what's going on. So this Urban Parking Management Centre actor is comprised of a number of other different actors. Now that relationship, Scott, is very similar to what we would have with a nested diagram or a organization chart that breaks things down into a tree. I want to show something else that's kind of useful thing. It can be done on any diagram, but it's useful here. I've got some notes here that describe what the diagram is about. I'm just going to tuck my toolbox away to make some more space. The little chevron there above to the left of the canvas, put that away. I've got a bit more space. So let's have a look at this. There's a best practice note on the diagram. The digital urban parking system provides a comprehensive management framework for modern urban parking operations, etc., etc. Now, I'm going to put a note on the diagram. So in the case that we're putting this into documentation or giving people views where they can't immediately see that window, for example, they just don't have that notes window open. So let's create a note on the diagram. I'm going to pop my toolbox back again quickly, and I'll scroll down here to common elements, and I'm going to drop a note onto the diagram. So there's the note. It's gone in, and I've got the opportunity, to type some things such as, the urban, and I can, put those notes in, and that will go into the diagram. I'm going to tuck my toolbox away again, create that space back again. And now, instead of writing that text in there, I want to use the text that the diagram already has on it. So all I do is right mouse click on that element, the note element, and say advanced, and say link to diagram note. And that now brings up the diagram note.
Does it all for you.
Does it all for me. And if I change the diagram notes, then this note changes as well. I'll make that a little bit more appealing. Go to my layout ribbon. Let's choose a color for that, and we'll put in that. It's a little bit too bright. Again, we can tone that down a little bit, using the custom palette there, and I'll just make that a little bit softer and say okay to that. And now I've got the diagram notes in the diagram. So there's our organization viewpoint, Scott. I just want to mention one thing as well. Is we go back to the project builder, and you can see here under the ArchiMate basic viewpoints, this is another representation that you could have if you just wanted to focus on the actors. So we talked about this at the beginning of this video, but I just want to mention it now again, that this is a useful representation if you just wanted to show the actors and their relationships. And you could also do that obviously with an organization chart. But the specification does allow you to create other elements such as the interfaces and the roles. And I find it quite useful, Scott, to have that relationship between the parking, between the actors and the roles, in this case, the parking administrator, who's the actor, but they're playing a role of zone and space manager. And
it tells more of a story in this format. So, yeah.
Exactly. And also the parking administrator may perform a number of different roles, and there might be other viewpoints that you create. So that's the organization viewpoint, Scott. I encourage people to practice themselves and in their own systems and create useful diagrams to show to their stakeholders.
Excellent. Thanks, Stephen. It's great to see how easy it is to pull together an organizational viewpoint using ArchiMate in Enterprise Architect. If you've enjoyed this video, to our audience, I encourage you to like, comment, and subscribe to the Sparx Systems YouTube channel, where you can find the latest and greatest videos about Enterprise Architect and some of our other Sparx Systems product like Pro Cloud Server and much, much more. As always, if you have some questions about ArchiMate or perhaps developing an organizational structure, you can reach out to Stephen using the credentials listed in the video description below. There's some LinkedIn details and a website, so you can ask questions. Thanks very much, Stephen. It's been great to see how easy it is to create an ArchiMate diagram, and it's great to see in the builder page that there's looks like countless examples that can do some of the hard work for you too. So excellent to see.
Thank you, Scott. Always a pleasure to be here.